In this crazy world, it's so hard to unwind. So I'm taking time just for me. Gonna find my peace, let my soul be free. In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe and leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care friends and family. Welcome back to another Room to Breathe podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so happy that you've made space to be here with us today. Now, before we jump into today's episode, do me a quick favor. If you're feeling the vibe, go ahead and share this with someone who may need a little healing energy today. And don't forget to tap the screen, like, comment, and again, just share this out with everybody. And for those of you who, this may be your first time here and you haven't already done so, go ahead and hit that follow button. Subscribe to our channel so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. I also want to personally invite you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org, where you can find everything from affirmative apparel to motivational merch, as well as free resources to nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, I encourage you to give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, and to make space for peace, for growth, but most importantly, for you. And if anything in today's episode hits home, be sure to drop some green hearts in the chat. That is our community's way of saying I am healing, I'm growing, and I am showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Now, you guys, it is a new year. And so I just want to, give a little reminder that here in the Room to Breathe, we tell the truth softly but honestly, right? We talk about the stuff that we don't always have the language for, the internal negotiations, peace and blessings, true powers. We talk about the quiet compromises, the moments where something looks right, but doesn't always feel right anymore. And so I think that today's conversation is one of those soul check moments. I want to start with a statement that may sound simple, but holds weight if you let it sit. And that statement is, don't allow your preferences to become your standards, or you'll risk your value system being off. Let me say that again, because I need to make sure that that statement blesses you. Don't allow your preferences to become your standards, or you'll risk your value system being off. And, if we're honest, many of us didn't lose ourselves overnight, right? We drifted slowly by choosing what felt familiar over what felt aligned, by calling comfort peace, by calling tolerance love, by calling survival strength. And so this episode is not about shame. It's about recalibration. It's about noticing where your yes no longer matches your values. No fear, no doubt. Welcome in. It's about understanding how healing requires you to update your standards, not just better intentions. And it's about learning how to choose alignment without guilt, even when it costs you comfort. So if you've ever asked yourself, why does this still not feel right? Or why do I keep choosing the same thing? Why do I feel disconnected even when everything looks okay? This is the conversation for you. So let's just take a moment to breathe. And, let's just jump into this, right? Let's talk about what happens when preferences start running the show and how you can lovingly take your power back. And so to kick things off, I want to begin by, breaking down preferences versus standards, because you need to know the difference. And so let's just start by clearing up the fog, right? Because confusion here is why so many of us get stuck. So when we think about preferences are personal, right? They are shaped by taste, personality, culture, habits, and sometimes unhealed experiences. Hey, Brooks, welcome in. Preferences sound like I like, I'm used to, this feels familiar, or I've always been drawn to, right? Those are preferences. And listen, there's nothing wrong with preferences, right? They're human. They add flavor to life. Thank you so much, Brooks. But preferences were never made to be the foundation that you build your life on. Okay? And so on the other hand, we have standards, right? Standards are non-negotiable because they protect your well-being. They are rooted in self-respect, emotional safety, and long-term health. Standards sound like I require respect. I need consistency. I deserve honesty. Or I will not abandon myself to keep someone else comfortable. See the difference? And so here's where the mix-up begins to happen. When healing is incomplete, hey Mariah. So when healing is incomplete, or when survival has been the teacher, we start upgrading preferences into standards without realizing it. It's like we start to tell ourselves, I prefer how intense they are, instead of asking if they're emotionally available. Or I prefer someone who keeps me on my toes instead of noticing the anxiety. I prefer someone who needs me instead of checking for reciprocity. And slowly we stop asking ourselves, is this healthy? Right? We start asking ourselves, can I tolerate this? And that's not alignment. That's endurance. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for sharing. Again, that's not alignment. And so I want to say this gently. Your standards are not about who you like. Your standards are about how you are treated. It's like you can like someone and still recognize that they don't meet your standards. You can be attracted to someone and still choose not to engage with them. And that's not about being picky, it's about being present. Standards are what keeps you from negotiating your worth when emotions are high. They're the guardrails that keep your value system intact when chemistry and fear and loneliness try to take the wheel. Sky V, welcome in. Hey, KO. Happy Monday, beautiful. So as you heal, your standards are supposed to evolve. What you tolerated in your survival mode may not be acceptable in this season of stability. What felt exciting in chaos may feel like draining in peace. And that doesn't mean that you've changed for the worse. It means that you're becoming more honest with yourself. So again, as we move through this episode today, I want you guys to hold this truth close to you. Preferences add flavor. Standards provide safety. Values provide direction. And when those three things are in alignment, that's when you stop drifting and you start choosing from clarity. So again, preferences add flavor. Standards provide safety. Values provide direction. Peace is the point. Welcome in, love. So let's talk about how your value system gets quietly distorted. And I think that this is one of the things that no one really warns us about, right? A misaligned value system rarely announces itself loudly. It doesn't crash in, it creeps in. And, most of us didn't wake up one day and decide to abandon our values, right? We adjusted. We adjusted them, we softened them, we put them on pause. Not because we were weak, but because we were tired. Right? And when I say tired, y'all know I'm talking about that soul tired, right? Tired of explaining, tired of starting over, tired of being the one who cares more, tired of being the one who's always choosing the hard right over the easy going. So we begin to negotiate. Right? We start saying things like, it's not ideal, but nobody's perfect. At least they're not doing what they used to. Or we convince ourselves, I can handle this. I'm strong. Or some of us have even convinced ourselves that we're asking for too much anyway. And so slowly we've shifted from honoring our values to managing our discomfort. Like, can anybody feel that? Does that resonate with anyone? That somewhere along the way, you shifted from honoring your values and now you're just simply managing your discomfort. Shonda, welcome in. And that's how the distortion happens, right? Your value system doesn't break, it just bends. And when it bends too far for too long, your body keeps the receipts. Your body keeps score. Absolutely, Mariah. Thank you so much. And so we know that our body keeps score. And we know this because when things are distorted, you start to feel this unease that you can't explain, right? You start to experience irritation over small things. There's this emotional numbness or a low level sadness that doesn't have a name. And that's not you being ungrateful. That's your spirit signaling that you are out of alignment. Yeah, stress, tension, anxiety, moodiness, all the things. And so now your spirit is screaming, we are out of alignment. And I think here's the part that's important to name, especially for those of us who have been conditioned to be strong and flexible and understanding. We often mistake adaptability for alignment. But just because you can tolerate something doesn't mean that you should. Just because you are capable of enduring doesn't mean that it's healthy. And just because you've survived worse doesn't mean that this is acceptable. When preferences start overriding values, suddenly we start to prioritize avoiding discomfort over honoring truth, right? Keeping peace over being at peace, or being chosen over choosing ourselves. And the cost isn't always immediate, right? It doesn't just happen all at once. It's something that builds over time, right? It's cumulative. It just keeps building and building. You begin to feel disconnected from the version of yourself that once had clarity. You stop trusting your inner voice. You second guess your needs. You start shrinking your expectations and calling it growth. But let me be clear. Growth does not require self-betrayal. Never have, never will. If something is consistently leaving you feeling smaller, quieter, or less yourself, that is not miscommunication. It is misalignment. And again, I'm not here to blame. I'm here to help raise awareness. Because the moment that you notice that your values have been bending, you'll start to choose differently. Butterfly, welcome in. Olis Circle, I see you. Welcome in. So again, when we know better, we can do better, right? And choosing differently doesn't mean blowing your whole life up overnight. It's not about that. It just means that you're starting to move in a manner that is honest and in a manner that honors you. So again, be honest with yourself. And just take a breath. If this feels close to home, if I'm dancing all over your toes today, just know that it's okay, because awareness is the first real act of self-care. Welcome in, Chris. And I also want to take a moment to talk about the role of conditioning and survival. And I think that this part matters so much because without it, we end up judging ourselves for patterns that were once protective. My sister said, dance all over mine. I need the reminders. Yes. So, many of our standards weren't chosen during seasons of abundance, right? Many of us set standards in a season of need, in that survival season. When you've had to survive, and when I say survive, I'm talking about emotionally, financially, relationally, right? When you've had to survive for so long, you learn how to adapt first, right? You learn how to read the rooms. You learn how to accept almost. Baby Keys, welcome in. You learn how to be grateful for relief, even when it's incomplete. And so over time, survival teaches you to lower the bar. Not because you lack worth, but because you're trying to stay afloat, right? You're just trying to keep your head above water. So let's name it, right? When chaos was normal, calm felt boring. Hey, Jordan. When chaos was normal, stability felt suspicious. Peace felt unfamiliar. And so our nervous system doesn't always recognize safety right away. It's okay. Yeah, I'm here. So again, your nervous system doesn't always recognize safety right away. It recognizes what it knows, right? What's familiar to it. And so that's why we confuse intensity with passion, inconsistency with excitement, emotional unavailability with mystery. And it's not because we're broken, right? It's because our bodies were trained in environments where love was conditional, unpredictable, or required endurance. And here's the part that I think needs the most tenderness. Your preferences may be rooted in what once helped you survive. You preferred what felt familiar because familiarity felt safer than the unknown. You preferred what you could manage instead of what required trust. You preferred what you needed, or let me say it like this. You prefer what needed you because being needed felt like security. And so if that's you, it doesn't make you weak. It simply makes you human. But healing is asking you a different question than survival did. Survival asks, how do I get through this? But healing asks, how do I stop living in this emergency mode? And when healing begins, your old standards start to feel off, right? Things just don't feel the same. What once felt normal starts to feel heavy. What once felt exciting starts to just feel draining. What once felt like love starts to feel like labor. And so that's not confusion, that's growth. This is also why people often resist peace at first, because peace doesn't give adrenaline. Peace doesn't require hypervigilance, and peace doesn't keep you on or in go mode all the time. And so after you've spent years being on, stillness, that peace, that can feel unsafe, right? So if you're in a season where you're questioning what you once tolerated, if you're realizing that some of your standards are really just coping strategies, please hear me when I say that you are not failing. You are learning in real time, right? You are updating. Your healing is allowed to raise the bar. Thank you. Your growth is allowed to make old preferences obsolete. And your nervous system can learn new definitions of safety. Give yourself grace here. We're unlearning survival, not shaming it. And so, yeah, values don't always feel comfortable, right? Alignment doesn't always feel good right away. In fact, sometimes alignment feels lonely. Like, let's just be real and call it what it is, right? Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like standing 10 toes down when your heart is still trying to catch up. We often expect doing the right thing to feel peacefully immediately, but that's not always how growth works. Values don't cater to comfort. They change patterns. And so when you start living from your values, they will ask you to say no when yes would have been easier, to walk away without a dramatic ending, to choose solitude over betrayal, to sit in discomfort rather than being numb by it. Preferences say that this feels good right now. Values ask, is this going to be good for me long term? And that difference matters. See, I don't want to just feel good today and then suffer for the rest of my life. I want to be involved in something or have people involved in my life that not only bring me joy today, but joy for years to come, right? Thank you. Thank you for the heart, Mies. And so let's be honest, many of us stay misaligned in situations, not because we don't know better, but because we don't want to feel the grief that comes with choosing better. Papa Smurf, hello, brother. And when I say that we don't want to feel the grief that comes with choosing better, I'm talking about the grief for what we hoped it would be. The the version of people that we believed in, the future that we've imagined. Lady Blue, great new day, sister girl. The time that we've invested. See, values don't dismiss grief. They walk you through it. Right? Choosing alignment doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you care enough to stop abandoning your needs. And here's the quiet truth. Discomfort that leads to growth is not the same as pain that leads to depletion. See, we know that values will stretch you, but they won't drain you. They will ask you, for courage, but they won't ask you to disappear. And so if something requires you to shrink or silence yourself or stay confused to keep it, that's not alignment. That's self-erasure. And sometimes the hardest part of living in your values is trusting that peace will come after the hard choice, not before it. So again, if you are in a season where doing what feels aligned feels heavier than staying comfortable, if your integrity feels more demanding than your habits, I just want you to know that you're not doing it wrong. You're doing it honestly. Let that discomfort teach you, not scare you. Right? Values, they don't rush. They take the time to take up roots, healthy roots that are going to build the foundation for your healing. So that way your next chapter is your best chapter, right? And so I want to take a moment to also, point out some signs that your preferences are running the show. Because many of us don't even know what to look for, right? This is where awareness turns personal. Not to shame you, but to free you. Because when preferences quietly take over, they don't usually announce themselves as red flags, right? They just show up as rationalizations. You might notice preferences are leading if you often find yourself saying, it's not that bad. I've dealt with worse. Nobody's perfect. I don't want to start over. Or at least they, we start that sentence where, well, at least they tried. At least they didn't hit me. At least the argument didn't last too long. At least they didn't leave. Right? So they said, you clocking me. Listen, we got first aid kits and tissue and all the things we need to help, ma'am. I'm on your toes too. Listen, I warned y'all about today. I gave y'all 2 weeks off. Gosh. No, I gave y'all about a month off. I've been MIA. Okay? But I want you to know that any sentence that begins with at least is usually a clue that you're minimizing something that your values are trying to address. So pay attention to that. And here are some gentle but telling signs that preferences might be running the show. You're explaining patterns instead of responding to them. You're more invested in someone's potential rather than their behavior. You feel anxious more than you feel safe, but you call it excitement. Glad to be back. You keep adjusting your needs so the situation can work. You're tired, but you stay anyway. But I want you to know that peace doesn't require convincing. Alignment doesn't create confusion. If you constantly have to ask yourself if staying or engaging or accepting your values may already be tapping you on the shoulder. And if you need another sign, right? As if I haven't given you enough. If you need just one more, you start losing your voice. You hesitate before you express how you really feel. You soften your truth to avoid discomfort. You pre-edit your emotions so they don't seem like too much. But that's not maturity. That's self-silencing. And for many of us, especially those who were conditioned to be strong or flexible or understanding, this self-silencing gets praised. We get told that we're easygoing, low maintenance. She's so patient, right? But patience without boundaries becomes self-neglect. And so one powerful question that I urge you to ask yourself is, if this situation never changed, could I live with it without betraying myself? Not could you endure it, but could you live in it with integrity? Because endurance is not the same as fulfillment. And so when preferences are running the show, we often choose chemistry over consistency, or familiarity over growth, comfort over clarity. And while those choices may feel easier in the moment, they come with a quiet cost. And that cost is the disconnection from yourself. So again, I hope you don't take this conversation as an accusation, but more of an invitation, right? An invitation to stop explaining why something almost works. An invitation to stop shrinking standards to protect attachment. An invitation to listen to the wisdom that shows up as discomfort. Your inner voice isn't being dramatic, it's being discerning. So again, give yourself room to breathe. Take a breath. If something clicked, honor that, right? If I'm dancing all over your toes, understand that awareness is alignment in motion. And so we have the opportunity to rebuild standards that reflect your healing. Once you recognize that some of your standards were shaped in survival, the next question for you becomes, what do my standards look like now that I'm healing? And I think that this is where many of us get stuck, because rebuilding standards can feel intimidating. It can feel like you're asking for too much. It can feel like you're becoming difficult. It can even feel lonely. But the truth is, standards, just like boundaries, they're not walls. They're simply filters. They don't block what's meant for you. They protect what's growing in you. And so rebuilding standards doesn't start with other people. It starts with you being honest with yourself. Healthy, healed standards ask questions like, does this feel emotionally safe? Is there consistency between words and actions? Do I feel respected even when there's a disagreement? Does this support my nervous system or keep me on edge? And notice how the tone of those questions aren't about perfection. They're about sustainability. That's because healed standards shift the focus from, do they like me, to, can I be myself without shrinking? Because really, I don't give a damn if they like me. It shifts the focus from, can I handle this, to, does this honor me? And here's the key piece that we have to unlearn. Like, it has to stop. You don't need trauma to justify your standards. You don't have to wait until something is unbearable to walk away from it. You don't have to, stick around and wait for a dramatic reason to say, this isn't working for me anymore. Right? Simply saying healed me doesn't feel good here is enough. Rebuilding standards also requires you to let go of urgency. See, when you're used to survival, you are constantly rushing. Thank you so much. Right? You rush, you compromise quickly, you accept early. Healing teaches patience, not as punishment, but as protection. So as you're healing, you'll notice that you're going to begin to slow down. You observe patterns. You let people show you who they are without filling in the gaps. And when something doesn't align, you don't argue with yourself anymore. You just listen. Right? Standards rooted in healing don't require aggression, explanation, or apology. They sound like, that doesn't work for me. I need more consistency than this. Or I'm choosing differently now. I'm honoring what I need now. See how simple those three little statements were? It's not long speeches. It's not over justifying. There's no guilt. Just clarity. Your standards should feel like relief, not tension. Like self-respect, not self-defense. And so as you rebuild them, you'll notice something powerful. You'll notice that you stop chasing what drains you. That you stop entertaining the things that confuse you. You'll stop negotiating your worth. And that's not about hardness. It's about healing. You are allowed to want better and expect it at the same time. Yes, I'm honoring what I need now, right now, in this moment. And so, again, choosing alignment over attachment, this is where everything that we've talked about meets real life. This is when we put it all into action. Give me just a moment, guys. TikTok, I'm gonna have to maneuver something really quick because I need to put you guys on the charger. Bear with me, y'all. Y'all gonna get TikTok, y'all get real room voice right now. But I gotta give y'all a lifeline real quick. All right, YouTube, y'all still on the mic, but TikTok, y'all in the room with me now, so y'all hear everything happening. But again, choosing alignment over attachment is where everything that we talked about starts to meet real life. Because knowing your values is one thing, but living them, especially when attachment is involved, is another. Attachment keeps us tied to what's familiar, even when it no longer fits. Right? That attachment starts to whisper, don't rock the boat. What if nothing better comes? Or at least you know what to expect. But alignment asks different questions. Alignment says, what is this costing me to stay? Choosing alignment over attachment often means releasing people and roles. Hey, Nicole, thank you for the follow. Routines, right? All the things that once felt like home, but now feel like you're holding your breath. And let me be honest, attachment isn't always about love. Sometimes it's about the fear of being alone, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of trusting yourself, the fear of starting over. So when you choose alignment, it can feel like grief before it feels like freedom. You might miss the idea of what could have been, the comfort of predictability, or the version of yourself that tried to make things work. And I believe that grief deserves space, but it shouldn't get the final say. Because in return, what alignment is going to give you is self-trust. Thank you. It is going to give you emotional clarity, right? It's going to help your nervous system be at peace. And you're going to develop a relationship with yourself that feels solid. When you choose alignment, you stop asking, how do I keep this? And you start asking, how do I keep me? And I honestly believe that shift changes everything. Alignment doesn't chase. It doesn't force. It doesn't cling. It chooses from wholeness. And sometimes alignment looks quiet, not dramatic. Not big speeches, not, any explanations, just a gentle, firm decision to move differently. I always think about when people are getting off of social media. I say Facebook was notorious for this. And, I couldn't have a day that would go by that I wouldn't scroll across somebody who has an attitude about something. And they're like, I'm leaving Facebook. I'm deleting my social media. I'm getting off of TikTok. Like, I'm doing all these things, right? I'm done here. I'm tired of this. And da-da-da-da-da. And they give some big old speech about how they leaving and they not coming back because they sick of it. And then you see them next week, same place, same time, doing the same thing, y'all. And I always laugh because I'm like, nobody asked you to get up there and tell it on the mountaintop. If this is no longer serving you, then just be done, right? And so, again, it doesn't always have to be some big dramatic speech. You don't owe anybody any explanation to why you're moving differently. And I want you to know that you can love something and still let it go. You can appreciate a season without staying in it. You can release attachment without losing your heart. Choosing alignment isn't a rejection of others. It is simply a commitment to yourself. And when you commit to yourself fully, your life begins to reflect devotion. And so if this conversation feels a bit tender, then I just want you to know that you're doing it right. You're not losing anything real. You're making room for what's really aligned. And so as we, think about bringing all of this together, right? We have to start by not rushing past, the emotions that came up today, the feelings, all the thoughts, right? I don't want you to jump to the next thing. I want you to sit with what you feel, right? Sit with what you just heard. Maybe later come back, listen to the replay. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, this episode wasn't light work. I mean, I may have made it sound easy real quick and we packaged it up for the hour, but this episode should have you ask to look at where you've been flexible and where you need to be firm. Mr. Jackson, welcome in. Happy New Year. I wanted to make you question where you've been loyal to comfort instead of your truth. Where you've been, calling something a preference when your spirit knew it was costing you more than you admitted. And if at any point you thought, damn, she talking about me, right? I want you to understand that you're not late. You're not wrong. What you are is waking up. What do we say? New year, true me. Not new year, new me, right? This is our season to show up as ourselves. New year, true me. Welcome back, Tiffany. So again, you are not late. You are not wrong. You are waking up. Most of us didn't lose alignment because we didn't care, right? We lost it because we were tired, because we were trying to survive, because we were taught to be strong and adaptable and understanding, even at our own expense. But healing shifts the assignment, right? And the beauty is we get to choose to heal. And so since we know that healing shifts the assignment and that we get to choose to heal, then that means we are starting to understand that we don't have to earn our peace. We don't have to suffer to be worthy. We don't have to keep explaining our needs to people who are committed to ignoring them. Your preferences can still exist, but they just don't get to lead you anymore. Your standards get to rise. Your values get to be your compass again. And yes, choosing alignment may mean letting go of the things and the places and the spaces that once felt safe. It may mean disappointing people who benefited from your flexibility. It may mean sitting in the quiet while your nervous system learns a new definition of peace. But I want you to hear me when I say that quiet is not emptiness. Quiet is space for you. And you don't owe anyone access to the healed version of you. You don't have to stay in situations that require you to abandon yourself. And you don't have to wait for things to get worse to choose better. So as you move forward, from this episode, I want you to carry with you that if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. If it requires you to shrink, it's not aligned. If you keep explaining it, then your values may already be saying no. And that doesn't make you difficult. It makes you honest. It makes you honest. And so I want to leave you with some affirmations. And the first one is that I honor my values without guilt. I honor my values without guilt. I honor my values without guilt. I release what no longer aligns, even when it's familiar. I release what no longer aligns, even when it's familiar. I release what no longer aligns, even when it's familiar. I trust myself to choose differently. I trust myself to choose differently. I trust myself to choose differently. And lastly, I am allowed to want peace and protect it. I am allowed to want peace and protect it. I am allowed to want peace and protect it. Family, I want to thank you for sitting in the room with me today. I know this is our first thing back, and I came back with, all my little allergy issues or whatever, but we did that. Okay? We are here. We are back, getting back into the swing of things. But I just want to thank each and every one of you for sitting in the room with me today. If this episode gave you language for something that you've been feeling, I want you to share this episode out with someone who may need permission to choose themselves too. Because sometimes that's all it is somebody reminding us that you get to choose you. Before we part ways, as always, I want to leave you with a little love and light. I encourage you to keep breathing. Thank you. Keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and every moment in between. I want you to keep choosing peace, even if it feels out of reach. And I want you to know that here at the Self-Care Club, you will always be seen, always valued, and always supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life. And I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. For those of you who are new here, I want to also just take an opportunity to let you know that we are here on TikTok. We are here live Monday through Thursday. YouTube, we are actually here Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys want to join our pre-party and post-party, you are always invited to join us on TikTok. We will actually tomorrow start going live back at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for what I am calling Club Serotonin, y'all. Club Serotonin is going to be our pre-party and after party where we just get together and vibe out with some music. So that is something that is exclusive to TikTok. Same name, Room2Breathe Project. And then YouTube, you guys have an exclusive because you get me on Fridays exclusively. So I invite everyone to come back and join us. Inbox me if you have any questions. But again, guys, as soon as this episode goes live, when we're finished, I want you guys to please share this out with someone. So that way they too can, start to recognize the difference in their preferences and their standards. Let's get this new year started right, okay? So again, I thank you guys for being here. This has been another Room to Breathe project, a Room to Breathe podcast, sorry. And I cannot wait to connect with you all again soon. Thank you.
Me, I